You have to face the inevitable truth that comes with having skinny wrists. The wrist joint, by its biological nature, has no capacity for volumetric growth. That narrow area where you wear a watch is made almost entirely of bone. Once puberty is over, it does not show any meaningful increase in thickness, and this is an anatomical certainty. There is virtually no muscle tissue in the wrist region, so there is no actual muscle mass there that you can grow. That area consists only of bone, tendons, and connective tissue, and accepting this reality is the first step toward aesthetic development. However, the story does not end in disappointment. On the contrary, the magical area that can completely change everything starts right there. The forearm muscles beginning just above the wrist. This muscle group is one of the most resilient structures in the human body. It responds incredibly positively to training stimuli, thrives on blood flow, recovers very quickly, and with the right strategy, develops extremely fast. The real problem is that most people in the fitness world completely ignore the potential of this critical region. People spend hours doing biceps curls and pumping their arms with triceps pushdowns, yet their wrists and forearms remain thin because they are neglected. Then they look in the mirror and complain, "Why do my arms look so weak and aesthetically poor? Why do they look like toothpicks?" The reason is extremely simple. A thin and weak wrist structure visually shrinks even a massive biceps built on top of it and makes the arm look shapeless. But if you manage to thicken the muscle mass right above the wrist, you create a powerful visual illusion. The eye is deceived, the mind perceives the area as a whole, and everything begins to look stronger, fuller, and more dominant. This is a transformation that will elevate your confidence when you wear a t-shirt or shake someone's hand in real life. When we dive into the scientific anatomy and research data, the picture becomes even clearer. When scientists attach EMG electrodes to athletes' arms and measure muscle activation, they find that traditional wrist curl movements stimulate only the superficial muscles. Yes, these movements do work the muscles, but they fail to truly penetrate the deep muscle tissues that give the wrist that solid, thick, bone-dense appearance. The real key lies in the deep muscles beneath the surface, and at the top of that list is the pronator teres muscle. When you perform a forearm rotation, like forcefully turning a door handle or slowly pouring water from a heavy pitcher, the activation level of this muscle can spike up to 73% of its maximum capacity. This is not a myth or gym folklore, it is direct laboratory data. This muscle is located just below the elbow and is one of the main architects behind the thick arm look that separates elite arm wrestlers from ordinary people. Legendary champion Devin Larratt doesn't call it "my best weapon" for no reason, because in arm wrestling, rotating your opponent's wrist and locking that position is one of the primary factors that wins matches. Tragically, most athletes go their entire lives without performing a single isolated movement that directly targets this muscle. To solve this problem at its core, I reviewed the scientific literature, examined papers on sports biomechanics, analyzed the training routines of professional athletes, and designed a 3-stage exercise protocol for those who have skinny wrists but want forearms that look like axes. The first exercise comes from people with some of the strongest forearms on the planet: climbers. Climbers' forearms are like steel cables. These individuals support their entire body weight for hours, using nothing but their fingertips. Electromyography studies have proven that during extreme fingertip grips, the flexor digitorum profundus reaches an astonishing 97% activation level. This muscle controls finger movement and is constantly active when gripping a bar, holding a steering wheel, or hanging from a pull-up bar. As this muscle develops, it creates fullness along the entire forearm line and triggers a growth festival, especially near the wrist where thickness matters most. That's why climbers' arms look intimidatingly strong even when their bone structure is thin. You can simulate this in the gym by performing fingertip pull-up hangs. Instead of fully wrapping your palm around the bar, you hang using only your finger joints. In the beginning, you should keep the intensity light. Use your feet on the ground to reduce load if necessary, or get assistance from resistance bands. Your goal should be high-quality holds, lasting 10 to 20 seconds. If you feel discomfort or pain in the joints, stop immediately, because this exercise demands tissue adaptation, not ego gratification. The goal is to keep the muscle under maximum stretch and tension for extended periods to awaken the deep fibers. The second exercise is inherited from the golden era of bodybuilding. From the legendary physiques of the 1970s and 1980s, long before modern machines dominated gyms, those giants didn't know EMG devices, but they knew how to read changes in the mirror. By observing what truly broke down and built muscle, they developed the unconventional movement known as the behind-the-back finger curl. When you hold the bar behind your body, gravity naturally pulls it from your palm toward your fingertips. With every repetition, your fingers are forced to gather the bar upward from the very edge. First, the fingers close, then the wrist flexes. This two-stage contraction brutally challenges the deepest layers of the forearm. You'll almost never see anyone perform this movement in modern gyms, yet it is one of the most effective exercises for creating that thick wrist illusion. The key here is low weight and high control. If the bar is slipping from your hands, reduce the load and refine your form. The third, and perhaps most neglected, critical exercise directly targets the pronator teres. Grab a dumbbell, sit down, and stabilize your arm on a bench or your thigh. Start with your palm facing upward, then slowly and controllably rotate your forearm until your palm faces the floor. This muscle does not respond well to heavy crushing weights. It thrives on higher repetitions, endurance, and flawless control. As this muscle group develops, the upper and inner portion of the forearm expands outward. This added mass creates a dramatic contrast with the thinner wrist below, making the wrist appear not weak, but tense, dense, and powerful, almost like a drawn bow. The most beautiful part of this system is that all three exercises can be combined into a single training block. Forearm muscles have one of the fastest recovery rates in the body. You can begin with 2 or 3 sessions per week, and gradually increase the frequency to 4 or even 5 days as adaptation occurs. But remember, you should never push yourself to total exhaustion in every set. As Devin Lorrat emphasizes, the goal is not destructive pain, but that incredible pump, the feeling of the muscle filling with blood. An intensity level of 7 or 8 out of 10 is ideal for long-term progress. As the weeks go by, you'll notice your forearms filling out, your wrists shedding their former fragile appearance and taking on a commanding presence. You'll look in the mirror and confidently say, "Yes, this is it. I've got wrists as strong as a gorilla's." And with the confidence that comes from powerful arms, life will simply feel better.